Welcome to episode 177 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg. My co-host, Warren Sklar, is off this week, but I have returning guest, always happy to have her, Kelly Guimont. How are you doing, Kelly?
I'm well, David. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. We're another fun week of stuff to talk about with Apple, and I just came off of a birthday yesterday, so I'm a little high on that, but now I'm low. No, I'm not.
You have a cake hangover? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, a little cake, little steak, some good dinner. So, but we got plenty to talk about this week. Some news of the week. Beta keeps going. I'm going to talk about this new service. You'll find out here in just a bit, and tips. A good amount of tips here this week. So we should have some good lively discussion with Kelly this week. Let's go ahead and start it off. And first story here is on Mac Rumors, Apple drops device trade-in prices in the U.S. That's sad. Mm-hmm. Apple today updated the iPhone trade-in site, dropping the maximum trade-in prices of almost all of its trade-in options. Trading in the 12 Pro Max, for example, will now net you $700, which is $90 less than it was a couple days ago after this was recorded. It is a great program, and I've done it in the past where it's if you just go a simple trade in and then you get some money down towards a new iPhone. The prices have gone way down. I mean, look at my 10R. It was down to $200 from $230, and then I have a 10s Max I could trade in, and it's down from $320 to $280. So I guess you kind of have to expect it. So if you really wanted to spend the time, what do you think, Kelly? Probably eBay route, maybe Facebook Marketplace. Some of those trade-in sites might score you a little more money.
Yeah, I mean, they always did. Like, you could always get more for you. It works a lot like cars, right? Like, You can get some non-zero amount from the dealership as a trade-in toward the next one, but you're always going to do better if you sell it to someone directly. Like, it's always been the case. One of the nice things about the way Apple does it is that we know that the stuff that they get is responsibly recycled. They publish reports on it every year and that sort of thing. Like, it's a very obvious paper trail of, like, if you turn your machine into them for additional life or whatever, they have certain programs where those machines get repurposed. And if it's just that old, then at least you know for certain that they're going to disassemble it and do something responsible with the subsequent individual parts. So I appreciate that about it.
Me too.
But it always struck me more as a convenience sort of thing. So I think all this is going to do is just bump up the eBay market or the Facebook Marketplace price on some of these things, is just because I think the price is going to go up a little bit because there's going to be more demand for them, I think, because I don't think as many people are going to trade them in, which on the one hand is sort of a shame, but at the same time, like, I never thought of Apple's trade-in as being the convenient, like, it was always the convenient choice. It was never the economical one. Right. Like, they'll give me some toward my next thing, and that's great. Whatever.
Made it easy.
So, yeah.
I mean, there was plenty of times I sold iPhones on eBay, and I think Craigslist, I did it a couple of times on there, which always can be scary. I mean, I think I used the Gazelle at one point too, but I think I don't hear too much about them lately. There's plenty of other services out there. So if you want to get more money for your iPhone, you might want to consider that. But I tell you, it's the convenience factor is just pays itself off in the long run, because your time is money too. And doing an eBay listing, trust me, as we all know, it takes a little bit of time and effort. So
it does, yeah.
So next story here. This was actually on The Verge. Apple backs off breaking Face ID after a DIY iPhone 13 screen replacements. There's going to be a software update on the way, but that won't require repair shops to transfer a microcontroller. Yeah, soon after the iPhone 13 launched, repair experts found that swapping out a iPhone 13 screen would break Face ID unless you also moved over a tiny control chip from the original screen. It's a complex process that made one of the most common types of repairs prohibitively difficult for independent repair shops. And this has been such an ongoing ordeal for quite some time. Apple's been trying to push back on repairs of iPhones and in general. I mean, give me a break, guys. I mean, I did it on a XS Max, and I just discovered today that Face ID isn't working on that one too. So they must be doing it on not just the 13. And I'm hoping the software update happens for that one. But pretty frustrating. What do you think?
Yeah, I wish Apple would just get out of this game, because I feel like there has to be a middle ground between, like, this is a screen that can be reliably repaired by somebody who is not Apple and yet still be a completely functional device, et cetera, et cetera. Like, there has to be a way around this, I feel like. And so I really wish that this is one of those, like, I just sort of wish Apple would stop bothering with this, because I don't think it does anybody any good. And basically all it ever does is make Apple look bad, because this is the same sort of thing as we slowed your phone down instead of making the battery last for an hour and a half. And people were mad about that. And even when you explained it to them, they were still mad about it. And I feel like the right to repair stuff is just going the same direction. Like, it doesn't, there's no, however they spin it, it never looks good for them, because they still have to say out loud, like, it's better for us if you never take it to anyone but an Apple store and pay our prices for the things that could be fixed by the kiosk in the mall outside the Apple store, not having to bring it all the way in here. And I just wish they would ease up on it and be like, fine, screen repair is a thing, and if you bring it to us with water damage, it's still not going to be covered. But find a better place to draw that line. I feel like
I agree.
Really where that needs to go.
Oh, price too is what influenced me with the XS Max. I wanted to kind of have it as a spare that my sister-in-law gave me, and then she bought my 12 Pro Max, and that XS Max actually used to be mine until she bought that one. But the pricing, it was $176 for a XS Max through a third party. It was $329 through Apple. So that's quite a difference in price. When you want to save a little extra money on an iPhone, they want it to work. I mean, it's kind of unfair, if you ask me.
Yeah, and especially because it never seems like, I don't know, like, it never seems like a good look, and it never seems like a thing that is unreasonable for them to be able to repair. You know what I mean? Like, I've never liked any of the right to repair scuffles, because the company never looks good in that case, ever. And whoever it is, if Google was doing this, I would say the same thing. I understand the place where they're coming from, where, like, we have to own it, and workmanship and repair and stuff like that. So have an actual repair program, just like you do for your other hardware, right? Like, there's Apple authorized places I could take my computer if it was having some sort of issue, and that place, while not an Apple store, would still be well within all of their rights and everything to resolve the issue that I'm having. If it's a hardware problem, they can work on it. All of that can be right. And everything would be fine. And they could just do that for phones as well. Make an authorized repair program, make people get certified for it, make people go through the rigmarole of making sure that they're maintaining whatever the standard is that Apple wants to maintain, but give people an avenue, because not everybody lives in a place with an Apple store. This
is true. This is definitely true. So let's hope this fixes it. And the article said Apple has not said yet when that is going to be released in software to allow it to work. So we'll see what happens. That is for sure. Next story here. This was in your place. This is some website called the Mac Observer. Oh yeah, that's it. New Apple Business Essentials brings device management for small businesses here. Written by our friend Andrew Orr here. Then you guys talked about this on Daily Observations, I know. On Wednesday, Apple announced, that was this week as we record this, Apple Business Essentials, a subscription service for small businesses that'll cover device management, 24/7 Apple support, and iCloud storage plans. There's a free beta starting today. You can sign up, but it's going to be full service coming up next year in spring of 2022. And the plans start from you get up to 3 devices and 2 terabytes of secure storage in iCloud, starting $2.99 a month, I believe, for up to 3 devices. They bought, what was the name of the company that they bought?
Fleetsmith.
Fleetsmith, which I remember meeting them at a MacTech conference one year when I attended it.
Yep.
Yeah,
I did too. I have a hoodie from them. They were really friendly guys.
I think I have a bag. I think I have a bag they gave me where I'll put all the stuff in. But yeah, kind of explain this, Kelly. What do you think of this?
Mostly, I'm glad that it's. I appreciate it on a bunch of levels. Number one, this is something that I feel Apple has been working toward for a while, and buying Fleetsmith was one piece of that. Part of my day job, like yours, is IT and managing machines at scale. And so I use a number of different MDM platforms, or mobile device management is what that usually entails. And so, like, if you hear about Jamf, that's a thing that's one of these platforms. There's bunches of them out there. And I've used a bunch of them, and part of the problem sort of with all of them is that you kind of need someone whose whole job it is to kind of manage the devices and learn that platform and be like an expert in that. And one of the nice things about the Apple one is I don't think it's going to require that level of knowledge and that level of specificity in knowledge from somebody. So because there's a huge gap between, it makes sense for us to license and pay for an MDM for all the people and all of the devices that we have in our organization. And, like getting to that point where you have somebody whose whole job it is to sort of manage all the mobile stuff, like there's a huge gap between that point and we have enough stuff that we need to address the situation with the number of computers, the number of phones, the number of tablets, the number of watches, that are running around on our network. And we need to be able to get a handle on that. We need to be able to, get a view of what operating system everybody has. Are they up to date? Because like there's insurance policies and stuff too that go into things now, where cybersecurity is like another way that people have to insure their organizations. And so like if you're paying for business insurance, you're probably also paying for cybersecurity insurance, and you have to ensure that like backups are happening and that operating systems are kept current and all these sorts of things. And you have to have device management in order to get your hands around, like, how many machines are we talking about? How many phones is this? What operating system are they on? What shape are they in? Like, depending on what sort of monitoring you're using, you can find out if a hard drive is failing on somebody's computer, things like that. So it's nice to have that sort of visibility into a system. And it's nice to also not have to spend a bunch of your time learning that. So, Jimmy in accounting is the person you talk to because he's the only one that spent the time to learn the software so that we can manage all the phones or whatever. Like, instead, like if you are at a company that's in one of those gaps, or doesn't have device management at all, and, a year and a half ago, everybody picked up all the stuff on their desk and went home, and you have to manage all of that now that it's in everybody's house and not just in one building where you can walk around and scan asset tags or whatever. The device management piece of this is really exciting to me for that reason, because I'm hoping that it will make it a lot easier for a lot of people to just do better when it comes to device management and being able to manage your fleet a little bit more effectively and see, wow, I didn't realize because this person's really quiet and never speaks up. Like, that's a 6-year-old machine and we should really get you on something newer.
Exactly.
Or whatever. Like being able to also be able to take proactive decisions and look at some of that stuff and get your hands around it a lot more easily. Like, I'm a huge proponent of anything that you can automate that makes stuff like that easier, and so I'm looking forward to this rolling out. I'm looking forward to, finding out more about it, finding out how it's going to work, how you get people into it, and all that kind of stuff. I will definitely be digging into this further. I did sign up for the beta as part of my day job so that we can poke at it a little bit and see what's what.
I think I'm going to do it as well. Just check it out. No, this for small business. This is great because a service like Jamf was more designed for the enterprise, a larger company, which we both utilize. But this is going to be more of a aim at a smaller business that doesn't want to get that high scale of manageability.
Well, and a lot of them there's a barrier of entry, right? Like, no matter what, you have to pay for 30 seats or 40 seats or 50 seats, there's a number. And if you've got 25 people in your organization, everybody's got a laptop and a phone, that's 50 devices right there, but one of the things I like about Apple's pricing structure is that it's per person. So if all anyone gets from work is a laptop, then you can be on the less expensive plan because everybody only has one device. If you've got an additional device coming, then you can put people on the slightly more expensive plan. Everybody gets 3 devices. So the pricing of it is per person, which I also think is sort of, I appreciate that to a certain extent. And I'm really looking forward to finding out how the mechanics of the management work with what they're doing. Like if you need to install a profile for somebody that's bring your own device, and like what kind of stuff can you do with that? And the sorts of things that we've seen with declarative management that came to Monterey and a bunch of those other things. A lot of this is some of the steps that we've seen up to now that didn't sort of make any sense. Like Apple was really excited about this thing when they talked to us about the new version of macOS at DubDub this year, whether it was this year or last year or year before. Right. And then that thing rolls out and you're like, okay, but what does this do for me, like as a user? Well, right now, it doesn't really do anything that you got an entirely new file system or that everything is now containerized. And so the system drive is very different from the user data drive. And there's a reason for that. And, and then this thing happened and then this thing happened. And, now you can stand here and look back at all of that and go, oh, well, now all of this makes more sense because like we've got the new erase all content and settings. Right. In Monterey. And so like you can turn a machine into a fresh out of the box looking computer in less time than it's taking me to describe to you that there is now a method in Monterey where you can go in and go like basically erase all content and settings and you let it reboot a couple of times. And now it's basically like you just took it out of the box and you can hand it to somebody. And like I said, it takes less time to actually do that thing than it does for me to describe to you what just happened. And watching that happen, like I saw a live demo of it, which was really interesting to watch somebody, obliterate a machine and turn it into a brand new computer for the next user. And watching those sorts of things happen, like makes all of those other pieces now make sense. At the time, like, why do I need a new file system? Like what's wrong with HFS or HFS plus, and so like some of the things that Apple was really excited about, like now I know why they were excited about it. And so the other notable thing about this, I think, is that this is one of the few times that Apple bought something and then we see like a straight line between the thing they bought and then the thing that they're doing now.
Usually they just bury it.
Because that doesn't happen very often.
Like you don't even know about it anymore.
8 layers deep in the menus, there's a new feature and it's because Apple bought this company like 2 years ago. It's sometimes it's obvious. Like Apple bought Dark Sky. I wonder what that means for Apple, right?
What's gonna happen to Dark Sky?
Weather got better, and we could see like there's a straight line right there. And this is the same thing. Fleetsmith was a solid product. The folks behind it were really smart. They were very on top of things. I was using device management to manage AppCamp computers and iPods and iPads, and it was so many things and I was super overwhelmed. And when it's just me, it was really hard. And that was, that ended up being like 85 devices by the time we were done. It was so many things. And then being able to go through and look at the list and go, what needs an OS update? What is on the latest version? Did I push the Wi-Fi password out to all of these easily? And those are the kind of things you can do with device management. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where this ends up with Apple. And I personally can't wait to get my hands on it because if it turns into something super useful, then this is going to be another one of those moments where like Apple is coming into a market that exists and that is very well developed and they're going to have to compete. So like, why should I use Apple's solution over Jamf or Simple MDM or Mosel or anything else that's out there that would allow me to do those same sorts of things. So watching Apple compete is always my favorite thing to watch, because a lot of times Apple comes out and goes, you know what would be awesome? If we made this speaker and you could talk to it, but it's an awesome speaker and you just talk to it like that, you know, like when Apple comes up with stuff like that, like it's kind of fun to watch. But the best thing to watch is like Windows just came out with like 5 killer OS things in the new version of Windows. Like what's Apple going to do about that? Android has this awesome thing that we don't have on iOS. Like, how are they going to sort that out? So whenever Apple is forced to compete, that's the Apple I really like to watch. And so watching them compete, particularly in an arena where they do not have a good reputation, I'm very much looking forward to seeing how they're going to proceed.
We will see.
In this marketplace with a bunch of competition that's pretty solid competition, honestly.
It is.
Like, it's a pretty mature field of technology, device management. So there's a lot out there that is very, very, very capable. And yeah, it's expensive. But so I'm curious where Apple's going to fall in all of that.
Where they fall in that. Absolutely. All right. Next story. Apple must allow external payment options by December 9th of 2021. It's also on the Mac Observer from our friend Jeff Butts. Apple request for a stay in a September 10th court order requiring it to allow external payment options in apps has been denied. That's the Epic versus Apple judgment that was given to them. And of course, Apple's reluctance to allow the external payments in the App Store claims it would take a considerable amount of time, Apple says, to prepare to comply for the court's order. In a hearing this week, Apple claims it needs time to rewrite its anti-steering policy before it begins to allow external payment options. Cupertino also insists that it needs to evaluate safety and security measures to allow external payment links. So they're arguing about the complexity of it and needing the extra time. Okay, let's see where that goes. So if the judge is fighting this, Epic may have won this part of their lawsuit, allowing for external payments. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see where this goes, and I'm also kind of not interested.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of we've kind of ignored all the Epic versus Apple nonsense for the last few months ago, and all of a sudden they have this little court order here that they have to now comply with payments.
Yeah, and like on the one hand, yes, Epic had valid points, but on the other hand, like I just feel like they've kind of been jerks about it the whole way along, and I feel like they will be equally sore as winners as they would be if they are losers, regardless of how this ultimately comes out. Like, Epic is going to come out and bellyache about it no matter what. And that's part of what I don't like about about this whole thing, is that like they basically dared Apple to yank them from the App Store, and then Apple did it. So immediately they had like their little PR campaign with the 1984 parody video and all the stuff, that they did. Oh, poor us. Oh, look how put upon we are, and somebody described it as basically like, if you're seeing a bunch of stuff about Epic versus Apple, all you need to know is that the $1 billion company is suing the $1 trillion company because they don't think they made enough money. And I'm like, yeah, oh wow, that is exactly what that's exactly what that case is all about, isn't it? So yeah, like that. On the one hand, yes, their points are valid, and yes, if like I understand what it is that they are trying to get to, but I also feel like they're being complete jerks about it, and so I'm kind of rooting against them anyway for that reason. So like I think it's valid. I think it's going to be interesting to see where anyone weighs in on this, primarily because Google Play is sort of doing the same thing as far as we take a percentage if you officially list it in our App Store. And so if Apple has to suddenly take other payments, I feel like Google's going to have to as well. they're not going to get to be their own payment system anymore. And I definitely want to see how that turns out for everybody. That's part of the reason it's kind of interesting to watch this, is because maybe Apple is the the canary in the coal mine, but like they're not the only one that this is going to affect. So I definitely want to know how it shakes out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens for sure. It's going to be interesting. Last story here through Mac Rumors, Apple Store app for iOS, of course, adds a saved items list for easy sharing with your product specialists. The Apple Store app for iOS was updated today as we record this with a new feature that lets you easily save items to lists, share them with a specialist online or during a store visit, and then get a recap of your visit to help you later purchase your items. After you save your items to a list, they can be found in a new saved items section on the account page, accessible via your profile picture at the top right of the app interface. And once you've met with a specialist about a list, you'll be able to see notes and suggestions on it through a new sessions recap section. It also brings audio descriptions to product videos to let you hear details about products if you're unable to watch the videos on your screen. So that was updated in the App Store. I think it's about time, because it always was hard to put. Some people want to be able to put a little list together of some things you want to buy at the Apple Store, and you never could do this.
Yeah. Honestly, like, while this sounds nifty, I really want it to come back to the App Store, because there used to be like wish listed or save it for later or whatever it was called. And we don't have that anymore. And that bums me out, because I'm really good at, my camera roll is littered with screenshots of apps that I want to recommend to somebody, or that I want to check out later, or whatever. It's one of the many, like, even if I narrowed it down, like, what are the 3 things? Like, you can wave a wand and make the App Store work the way you want it. What are the 3 things you change? Like, this is still one of those 3 things. I really like having that wish list for being able to check things out later. I like it a lot. And I've been sad forever that it's gone, because it's been gone forever. But I really liked it. I thought it was nice to be able to do that and have the opportunity to check things out later. So
absolutely.
Now I'm just thinking what the other things on my list would be. If I could get 3, what would be the other 2?
Gonna get some stuff here. What do we want? All right, that's the news this week. Let's move on to topics. Beta. We always talk about beta. This week, iOS 15.2 Beta 2 was released. And that was released to developers and public beta testers. Added actually quite a few new features, which includes things like legacy contacts. With legacy contacts, you can set a trusted person to be able to access your Apple ID and your data, or digital legacy, after you die. The person that's designated as your contact can access your photos, messages, notes, files, contacts, everything basically in your accounts. And keychain passwords will remain inaccessible as does licensed media, but at least the legacy stuff will be there, which is a good option to have that in place.
Yeah.
Got a comment?
Yeah, I'm glad that they're finally doing this. It's taken long enough. It should have been in a single digit number of iOS, to be honest, but it happened eventually. So, but now that it's out, or at least, it's in the wild, even though it's not out for everybody yet. This definitely feels like one of those features that now that we've got it, like, where has this been all my life? Like, so I'm hopeful that it makes things a lot better. When people end up in a situation where you have to access someone else's Apple ID, and it's kind of a mess. So I'm looking forward to the changes, mostly because I'm glad that they're finally doing it, and that Hide My Email was also getting, I think, beefed up in the next beta.
Yep.
That's another thing I'm looking forward to. So yeah.
And then Find My Lost Item scanning, which is in the Find My app. Apple added a new option for items that can track me. Tap on this allows users to search for nearby items that might be used to track their location. When activated, unknown items you can scan for anything that's nearby, and will let users know either way if there's a device that belongs to someone else nearby. So there's also a help return lost items option. Also scans for nearby devices that might be lost. So it's kind of like tracking for stuff and being able to find some where this item belongs to. So should be interesting.
Now I understand why Tile took them to court.
Yeah. There you go.
That's what like that. Now I get it. Yeah.
And then the iPadOS TV app, they've introduced a new design. Features includes a sidebar, which makes navigation easier. I always found that to be a pain to navigate in the iPad. There's also a dedicated store tab in the TV app for accessing movies and TV shows that can be purchased. The new design and then the addition of the store may help separate Apple TV Plus content from paid content, which always was confusing to try to find. Good they did that. You have a always-on dark mode for CarPlay Maps app. I can't wait to try that in my car. You can put CarPlay in dark mode. And then as you just mentioned, the Hide My Email is going to be in the Mail app itself. You can use the Hide My Email directly from the Mail app after installing the 15.2 beta. When composing an email, you just tap From field and select your Hide My Email option to generate a random email address, which is sweet. So now you can, even though you'll get it, it's just going to be random, so they can only can send it to that email, and then you can get rid of that email once you start getting too much spam.
Yep. I really like Hide My Email. I'm really glad that it's finally a thing that's happening.
Oh, and here's to mention, too, display repair restriction changes. So maybe 15.2 is going to fix it, as The Verge mentioned, or we talked about in the news earlier here, that will change an iPhone 13 policy. What's iPhone 13? I'm going to go put beta on this X XS Max. I hadn't done it yet. So let's check, see if that fixes that. Yeah, I'm glad they fixed that. So we already know what that is. So it looks like 15.2 is going to fix that. Then communication safety. Apple's enabling communication safety in messages for children.
Right.
So this was, I remember this was, it was a big hoo-ha when all the privacy concerns about this CSAM, which still has, I guess they're saying it's still functional, but it's still in development. So it's going to help with, this photo is sensitive, you want to view it, and, that's good. Then, of course, bugs. We always know this is going to fix some bug.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't really never tell you what it is. So that's coming. WatchOS 8.3 beta is out. And then tvOS, of course, 15.2 is out as well. And neither one have anything really notable that it never really does, actually. So, and so that's good news. That's good news. So, you're running one of your devices on beta?
I am not at the moment.
Okay.
But it's been sort of nice that the betas have continued apace. Like as soon as 15 or as soon as 12.01 dropped, like there was a beta for Monterey, like the next day. And as soon as we got 15, like we're on, the second big beta cycle of like new features that are coming to iOS 15. So I'm just glad to see that the beta program seems to be going along pretty smoothly.
Seems like it.
For the most part. June and July are never good months to be installing betas anyway.
True.
So like now that we're later in the cycle for these, it definitely feels like we're getting sort of normal betas. Like a lot of the bolt tightening has already happened, and we're getting to the point where it's going to be something you can install on older devices, because some of the optimization, like for battery and speed and stuff, that comes on, installing stuff on older hardware. We're getting to that point where that stuff is gonna start dropping in silently, and you'll just notice on your older machine like stuff is running a lot better than it did. So
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. All right, so that's beta, and I have a story to tell this week. It involves some interesting things that happened to my Apple Watch. So I was going along, and last week, all of a sudden, I just start to discover when I go to try to buy anything with my Apple Watch at a terminal, it would say, try again. And I said, okay, this must be something wrong with my credit card, So I swiped through the wallet, and I said, okay, let me try my Apple Card. Try again. My debit card, try again. I thought it was my debit cards, because it was two debit cards that I had on my watch, and then plus my Apple Card, and then I had a Discover card on it as well. Tried every single one of them. It wouldn't work. I'm like, this is interesting. Why would this be? I don't know why. So I got to a point where I contacted Apple support, because I wanted to just kind of get a console, and this should not be happening. I sure hope my Apple Watch isn't having a problem. So turns out the simple fix was to unpair my watch and then pair it back again. Now, of course, we know that's a pain, but it actually has gotten a lot simpler than it has in the past when you've had to unpair your watch and then you're like, oh God, now I'm going to have to set it up the way I want again and all that. But they've done it. They've done a really good job of with the backup and being able to restore it very simple and easy. So as soon as I restored it, and of course it remembers all the cards I had, so it automatically adds them. Of course, you got to get the 3-digit codes for every card again to put them in to authenticate them, except for the Apple card, of course. So put them back in, and sure enough, I go back and I had to go try it because I was on the Apple support. And I said, okay, well, how am I going to test this without going out to a store and buying something?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you're going to have to do that. Well, get back to me and let them know. So sure enough, I decided, I'll go up the road and I'll go to CVS and just go buy some stuff. And so I did. And sure enough, it worked. So just be aware of that. If you ever get a weird bug like that happen to you, when it comes to Apple, the wallet app, that you may have to restore your watch in order to get it to work again. So.
Okay.
Very strange. So,
that is weird.
And another thing I wanted to talk about. I did an actual review of these folks back on episode 138. I was with Mr. Mike LaPlante, and this was a service called PodSwap, and what they did. Yeah, what they did was you would take, I still have them sitting right here in front of me here. My first generation AirPods. The batteries were not very good. They would last if I was lucky an hour, and they had a service that you traded in. You sent in your AirPods, not the case, but the AirPods, and they would send you back a new pair that had new batteries in them. So great service, $60. Go back and listen to that review of that, but. These gals, it's Emily and Emma, who are the co-founders of this company, have now come up with a new company called PhoneSwap. And now what they're doing is they're going to easily allow you to swap your older iPhone for a new one. So I went onto the site, and actually I talked to somebody from on their site earlier today, and I wanted to kind of ask what you do. So if you go, the link's in the show notes, so it's thephoneswap.com. So you can go in and so here I did was I went in and tried. I said my current phone is a 10s Max, and then all they do is ask you a couple questions. Is it free of any cracks, any screen cracks, or any that kind of stuff? And then and it works and it's clean. You say okay, and then so now they gave you 3 options here. They have the simple swap, the smart swap, or the super swap. Right now the smart swap is out of stock, so I had a feeling that's probably the iPhone 12 or the 12 Pro Max. But so for a simple swap, if you wanted to swap, let's say, to an iPhone 11, they have that, and this is 128 gig iPhone 11. With the trade, it would cost you $175. Not bad for an iPhone 11. And if you wanted to even go bigger, if you wanted to have an 11 Pro Max, it would move it up to $325, which I don't think is as good of a deal because it's giving you only a 64 gig space versus the 128 on the 11. So now that I look at that, that's not such a good deal. But I like how their business model is because it's very simple. You're just going to send. They send you a phone, you send the other one back, and a real simple service. I thought it's an interesting way of getting a new iPhone. And I think it all depends on how competitive they're going to be with their devices. They do trade in. They do trade in the 11 Pro Max all the way down to the iPhone 7. So you can trade in the 7. I'd be curious. Let me see what the price of the 7 is. You just say it's in good condition. Is it paid off? And it perfectly matched the swap. So yeah. So now you could trade in your iPhone 7 for an iPhone 10 for $250. And if you want to trade in your iPhone 7 for a 10R, it's $250 as well. Or you can go $400 and get the iPhone 11. So kind of interesting.
All right.
So yeah. I like these kind of services, and because I think even when you go to like a Gazelle or any of those other services that you can trade in your phone, they give you cash back for it. But this is like an instant way of getting a new model and trading it in real simply. So
yeah. Just to go back to that, like we were talking about before with the trade-in at the Apple Store, just another way to make it a super convenient option do something else with that device. So yeah, I like it.
Absolutely. So check them out. I highly recommend it. Like I said, I had a great experience with the PodSwap, and I can't imagine you wouldn't have a good experience with the PhoneSwap service as well. Their link is the link to this is in the show notes. So check those things out. So I got a book for my birthday, and I thought it was kind of a fun book. And it is a book called Apple Design, and I'm showing it on camera here if you can see it. And if I remember correctly, Apple actually had a book that had shown all of Johnny Ive's designs, and it was pretty expensive. It was like a couple of $100 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was not cheap.
So this one here, actually, I looked it up, and it's now the link I sent on the Amazon. It's about $32, but still not too expensive. But I think. It's got some really good quality. So there's, I think people look on camera there. I think it's, really well laid out. Shows the design. I think I even found there's the iPad and the original iMac, and it's got the iPod Hi-Fi. Who can ever forget that? Neat little thing. I recommend that to take a look at to see if. Just to have a coffee table book, and if you see the book here, even has he has a notch in the hair too, which I found to be interesting. I don't know if that was matching the notch for the iPhone, but check it out. I put a link in the show notes for that as well. So interesting book. With that, let's go into some tips. First thing I had here was. How to install and manage apps for messages on iOS 15, iPadOS 15. And I don't do this very often. Have you done this before? Added specific apps to messages?
Sort of. Mostly stickers is what I've added through messages. But
especially the Ted Lasso stickers.
Yes, that was very exciting. Ted Lasso stickers, Star Wars stickers, Golden Girls stickers, all of those exist. I have a cool app where you can draw your own and then export it in like sticker pack format so that stuff that you actually drew can be the stickers, which I think is very cool. I haven't done a lot of it, but mostly because there didn't used to be a ton of like interesting apps via messages. So there were a few things that were like a game that you could play with somebody, like back and forth over messages, like Boggle or something like that. There were things like that, but not a lot of stuff like that was really fun. So I haven't spent a ton of time with those.
Yeah. So if you actually go into the messages, and if you type the App Store app that we shown below it, it shows a bunch of different games and stickers that are available right now. The fall and the stickers are available. And they have iMessage games that they love, and there's a couple different games there. Yahtzee with Buddy devices, the Buddy's dice should be what is interesting. Of course, in-app purchase, stickers you love, Space Jam, like I said, the Ted Lasso one's out there somewhere still, I'm sure, and Celebmoji. That's interesting. They have another one here. It says "Keep it weird." Banana Ninja and Banana Samurai. Okay. They'll look interesting. Then they show the top paid and top free.
I'm sorry, I'm still back at Banana Samurai. I don't need, now I need to go
it's
look
99
at what that
cents.
looks like.
It is 99 cents, so you have to sacrifice that dollar to get it. But and then they have top paid, very necessary emojis. And that's 99 cents. And then there's top free ones. This one was interesting. Polls for iMessage, where you actually can put a poll in an iMessage, and if you wanted to ask something. I might read. I think looks like I've downloaded that before. I might try that again. You just tap download it, and you can open it up, and it actually allows you to create a poll and then send it right into messages, which is kind of neat. I didn't even know I'd forgot. It looks like I had downloaded it once before and forgot about that. So, we'll check that out. So, but yeah, there's all kinds of ways that you can go in and download these messages. And if you want to keep the app on your iPhone, but if you don't want it in your app drawer, you actually can go in just a few steps here to enable or disable apps in the Messages app. So if you go into Messages, start into Messages, open an existing conversation in the app drawer, you can scroll to the right until you see button, and then tap the button, then toggle on or off the apps that you don't want to see, because there might be some in there you may not be interested in, but you can go in and do that. So, So yeah, there's adds more powerful things of what iMessages can do. That is for sure. So, and a couple things I wanted to talk about with what was added to iOS 15. First one was copying links from a tab group. I think Safari has become very, very powerful when it comes to that, and being able to copy those links is very easy. And the way you do that is you open up the tabs group. Which is down as you tap the tabs group here, and you tap a group's name, or if you have the bottom of the screen, you can edit and create those tabs group in a card menu. You tap all the circle ellipse next to the tabs group in question, and then you copy links. So what that allows you to do is be able to copy the links, and then if you want to paste them right into, like, let's say a Notes app, you could do that, which is really cool. So yeah, so you tap the tabs button, you go to the two tabs, and very easy to go through and click it up and edit and tap edit, and then you can tap the ellipse and copy links and each of those tabs that are open. So if you're one to open up many tabs, and I just found out the other day that a family member had over 500 tabs open. I'm like,
no, they didn't, because you can't ask me how I know.
I know. I remember, but she had.
When you get to 500, it goes, you got to close one.
Yeah,
so,
that's what I'm saying. She had 500 because she was at max. So,
yeah.
But that is really cool, because on the fly, if you're looking at the tabbed apps here, it is a cool thing to be able to copy those, because we do that all the time. I know, at least I do, checking a lot of different websites, and you want to copy and paste them real quickly into a note. You easily can do that. The other tip I wanted to talk about was being able to mute notifications for individual apps, and that gives you a really good option, being able to mute specific apps. That makes it really easy to keep it from bothering you. Really, is what it is. Let me get to my note here, and it is really simple way of being able just to mute the app, individual apps. And the way you do this is you simply swipe on a notification, and then this shows up in the notification center, and then you tap options, and then you can select mute for 1 hour or mute for today. So if you keep getting notifications for a specific item, it's like I get Twitter notifications all the time. And maybe I want to take a time out. I like to get those notifications because you're always knowing what's going on in the world. But I focus, of course, on technology, not any of the other crazy things go on in the world. You can mute that for an hour, or you can mute it for 1 day. And it's a cool, simple way of being able to get to a menu. So very cool kind of things as well. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was the accessibility, being able to change dark mode on a specific app. Now, Amazon is probably the most common app that you can't change it to dark mode, and at least they haven't offered that option on the app just yet.
Yeah.
So if you go into settings and you go into accessibility, and then you scroll all the way down to the bottom under general, there is a per app settings. So if you go into there, you can add an app. So in the case, I added Amazon. So if you tap Amazon, so now you can change all of the settings specific to the app, because that was always whenever we would use accessibility. And of course, accessibility is good for someone who's vision impaired or hearing impaired. Well, in this case, you can go in and, let's say you want to change display text sizes. You can go in and change bold. You can make bold text, larger text, buttons, shapes. increase the contrast, reduce the transparency. So what you do in this case is you go down to Smart Invert, and then you can turn that on or off, or set as default. So if you turn it to on that specific app, then you go into Amazon, you will now be able to see Amazon is in dark mode, which I kind of like.
Wow.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really cool, feature. So check that out. Another tip,
that is cool.
Another tip, which I'm sure most people know, but maybe not. If you're in Safari and you want a quick way to refresh a page, you just have to go at the top of the page and swipe down. It'll automatically refresh the page because sometimes you might be at a site. If you can go through and just swipe down, it gives you the option to really do a quick refresh of the page and have that. So, anything that's been standing out for you with iOS 15 as of late, Kelly?
No, but only because like a lot of the stuff that I tend to recommend is not necessarily new. So Control Center seems more responsive to me in iOS 15, and that may be made up.
I agree.
But it seems a little perkier. And so I think it was last time I was on the show with you that I was trying to sort of plead the case for go spend a little time with Control Center, and it will make your life better if you can turn Control Center into something that is actually useful and helpful to you, and go make some edits and put the right things in there so that you've got what you need. I put magnifier in there for my mom on Control Center, and it changed her life. Like, she uses it constantly for things. So
I do too.
And she didn't even know that was a thing her phone could do for her until I showed it to her. And I think it's also partly just awareness, I would say. Finding out that my stepdad, for example, he watches football, but he watches with big over-ear headphones on. So he doesn't hear if his phone goes off because his daughter is texting him to talk smack about the football game they're watching. So he was missing all of her messages and missing the opportunity to trash talk. And so I pointed out to him at one point, I know you set your phone there next to the, on the table next to the chair where you're sitting. So you can have it flash so it'll catch your eye so that you don't miss a text message anymore. And that was such a better thing for him. And so I think part of it is just being able to apply some of the practical lessons when you get something practical like that you can kind of file away. There are lots of different applications for some of that stuff. So I would say everybody could probably benefit from a little bit of time in the accessibility preferences, and benefit from, a little bit of time in Control Center and things like that as well. Deliver quietly. There's just sort of things I end up rediscovering in new versions of the operating system. The most recent one that I rediscovered was that having a notification pop up for you could be the only time you ever see it, because that's a separate line item in the preferences than show in Notification Center. So you can have stuff like show you the garage door opened or whatever, and not have it show up and have an endlessly scrolling list of notifications later. And finding out that some of those things that, can be really transitory, you don't have to worry about, having them at the bottom of your notification list all the time. So sometimes I just get reminded of stuff like that every so often. I should really remind people of that. So it's just one of those things that, because at this point, it's been going on for so long, and we've had iOS for as long as we've had all those sorts of things. It sort of gets forgotten, I think, in some ways. So it's one of those things I never know what everyone else doesn't know, and that kind of thing is always, hey, well, remember, so there's always stuff you have to, sort of relearn when it comes to those sorts of things. So I always have a tip for somebody, because I just had a conversation with somebody else about, well, remember, there's that thing you can do in iOS that solves that problem. Oh, that's right. So it just sort of happens all the time. You're just continually reminding people, you can set the white point so that it can be even darker in the nighttime if you want. You can set the brightness on the flashlight. You can, whatever it is, you can always, make that adjustment or do that thing or what. that stuff is always just sort of a constant reminder of like, oh yeah, that's a thing that I can enable, and then everything else is better after that or whatever. So
that's right.
Sometimes it just seems like a reminder, is always good. So.
Absolutely. All right, we gave you some great tips, and let's go ahead and wrap things up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. We are live streaming the show usually on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/DaveG65. We can also watch past streams and listen to all the episodes. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where we have many of the topics and questions and stories that we talk about each week. So check that out with links in the show notes. You can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher also, which would be, of course, Apple Podcasts or many others. But better yet, go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter @DaveG65. Thanks, Kelly, as always. Always enjoy having you on the show. Where can people find you?
Wow. Well, you can find me 5 days a week hosting the Daily Observations podcast over at macobserver.com. You can find me on the Incomparable Network, where I pop up on some other episodes of things talking about different stuff. Just recently, we did an episode about Only Murders in the Building, which was a show I very much enjoyed. I talked a bunch about Ted Lasso on the Football is Life podcast over there. I have my own show there called I Want My MCU TV, where we talk about the latest Disney Plus show, the latest Marvel show that is streaming on Disney Plus, I should say. And you can hear me on an upcoming episode of Automators with David Sparks and Rosemary Orchard.
Nice.
And you can find me the rest of the time on Twitter, where I am Verso.
Yes, I'm going through Ted Lasso withdrawal, I must say. We have a whole nother year. Wait until the next third season comes. So
you can rewatch with the podcast where we were watching live. I'm sure there will be a rewatch before season 3 starts. I'm sure we'll do season 2 again anyway. We did a season 1 rewatch in the run up to season 2. Yep. And then season 2 got sort of instant episodes. The show came out on Friday, and we would record something on Saturday that got released later on Saturday. And then, so I'm sure there will be another round of nerds nerding out about Ted Lasso.
I'll be listening. That's for sure. And I hope you enjoy listening to the show this week. We had a lot of fun doing it, and lots of stuff to talk about. And glad you were here. And for that, we appreciate you listening, and we'll talk again soon.